1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer, and the men who develop it share one silent habit that most guys over 40 don't even realize they're doing wrong. A Harvard study tracked over 32,000 men for nearly 2 decades and found something that should change how every man thinks about his prostate. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what that number is, why it matters more than your doctor has time to explain, and what happens inside your body when you ignore it. Stay with me here because this next part is important. Let me break this down for you. Your prostate is a walnut-sized gland that sits right underneath your bladder, wrapping around the urethra like a donut around a straw. Its main job is to produce the fluid that nourishes and protects sperm. Think of it like a small factory that never stops producing. And like any factory, if the product never gets shipped out, things start to back up. In my 18 years of clinical practice, I've seen hundreds of men walk into my office in their 50s and 60s, confused about why their prostate is enlarged, why they're waking up 3 times a night to urinate, or worse, why their PSA just came back elevated. And here's what most doctors won't tell you. The way you've been living, the frequency of your ejaculation, the way you've been ignoring the signals your body has been sending you for years, all of it matters. And now we have the data to prove it. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. We'll call him Mike, 54 years old, executive, married 26 years. Mike came to me after his last physical. His PSA was climbing. He was having urinary symptoms, and his wife had noticed something he didn't want to admit out loud. He wasn't initiating anymore. He was tired, stressed, his libido had been dropping for years, and without realizing it, he had gone from a healthy sex life to maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks. He thought he was just getting older. He thought this was just what happens to men in their 50s. He was wrong. When Mike sat down in my office, the first thing he said was, "Doctor, something is wrong, but I don't know how to explain it." His wife had noticed. She had stopped reaching for him at night. She had stopped making the small comments that used to let him know she wanted him. And Mike, being a proud man, had told himself it was because of work stress, or age, or the kids, or a dozen other explanations that let him avoid the real conversation. But what Mike didn't know, and what most men don't know, is that his prostate had been silently paying the price for that change in frequency for years. His body had been trying to send him a signal through urinary symptoms, through fatigue, through the quiet drop in morning erections, and he had ignored every single one. And now here's where it gets interesting. There's a theory called the prostate stagnation hypothesis, and once you understand it, you can never look at ejaculation the same way again. Every day your prostate produces fluid, old cellular material, inflammatory byproducts, and potentially carcinogenic substances accumulate inside that gland. When you ejaculate regularly, you flush them out. You clean the pipes. But when ejaculation becomes infrequent, those substances sit, they marinate, they irritate the tissue. And over years, that chronic low-grade inflammation is exactly the kind of environment where cancer cells can start to develop. Think of it like a filter in your car. If you never clean it, debris builds up, the engine suffers, and eventually something breaks. Your prostate works the same way. But the stagnation theory is only half the story, because there's a second mechanism that's just as important, and I'll explain that in a moment. First, let's talk about the number. In 2016, researchers at Harvard published a landmark study in European urology. They followed over 32,000 men for nearly 20 years. They asked these men how often they ejaculated, tracked their health over decades, and looked at who developed prostate cancer and who didn't. The result was one of the most important findings in men's sexual health in the last 30 years. Men who ejaculated 21 or more times per month had a significantly lower risk of prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times per month. The risk reduction was around 22% for men in their 40s and 19% for men in their 20s. Let me say that again because I want this to sink in. 22% lower risk of prostate cancer. Not from a drug, not from a supplement, from a natural biological function your body was designed to perform. And the numbers get even more striking. A more recent study out of Spain looked at 883 men. About half had been diagnosed with prostate cancer and half had not. The researchers asked them how often they ejaculated in the year before diagnosis. The men without prostate cancer ejaculated significantly more often than those with cancer. When they compared ejaculation frequency directly, men who ejaculated only 4 times per month had a 64% higher risk of prostate cancer than men who ejaculated 5 or more times. Men who ejaculated 0 to 3 times per month had a 138% higher risk. And men who never ejaculated had a 271% higher risk. Gentlemen, listen up. Those are not small numbers. Those are the kinds of numbers that should make every man over 40 stop and think about how he's been living. And here's the part that really concerned me when I first read this data. The link was strongest for aggressive advanced cancers, not the slow, manageable kind, the dangerous kind. This is not opinion, this is the data. Now let me go back to that second mechanism I mentioned, because stagnation is only part of the picture. The other part is testosterone. Regular sexual activity, including ejaculation, is associated with healthier testosterone signaling in the body. And men with healthier testosterone profiles have lower rates of prostate cancer. When a man stops ejaculating regularly, whether because of stress, relationship issues, erectile dysfunction, or just the slow drift that happens after decades of marriage, his hormonal environment shifts. His cortisol climbs, his testosterone drops, his inflammation rises, and over years that biochemical shift sets the stage for disease. This is not just about sex. This is about the entire physiology of being a man. There's also a third piece that most doctors don't discuss, and that's the immune system. Regular ejaculation has been linked to measurable changes in immune function, including the activity of natural killer cells, the ones that patrol your body looking for abnormal cells before they can become tumors. When your sexual physiology is active and healthy, your immune surveillance works better. When your body is in a state of chronic stress, low testosterone, and prolonged inactivity, your immune system gets sloppy. And a sloppy immune system is exactly what cancer needs to gain a foothold. And here's what I want every man watching this to understand. If your frequency has dropped, there is almost always a reason. And ignoring that reason is what causes real damage. Stress is a reason. Poor sleep is a reason. Low testosterone is a reason. Erectile dysfunction is a reason. Relationship distance is a reason. And each of these is treatable, but only if you stop pretending it isn't happening. I had another patient, James, 61 years old, who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Dr. Cross, my wife stopped asking, and that's when I knew something was really wrong." That's the quiet sentence that defines so many men's sexual lives after 50. The wife stops asking, and the husband tells himself it's fine. It's not fine. It's a slow biological unraveling that has measurable consequences on the prostate, on the heart, on longevity itself. If you take one thing from this video, make it this. Ejaculation frequency is not a measure of your masculinity. It's a vital sign. It's a signal from your body about how well your vascular system, your nervous system, your hormonal system, and your emotional life are functioning. And the data is clear. Men who maintain a healthy, regular rhythm throughout their 40s, 50s, and 60s have measurably lower rates of prostate cancer, better cardiovascular health, and longer lives. Now, I want to be clear about something because this is important. I am not telling you to start marking your calendar and forcing yourself to hit 21. That's not how biology works. What I'm telling you is that if your number has quietly dropped to 2 or 3 times a month, or even lower, that is a signal, not a failure, a signal. And it deserves investigation. Talk to your doctor. Check your testosterone. Address the sleep. Address the stress. Address the erectile function. Because the research is telling us something that urologists have suspected for years, but haven't had the data to say out loud. The men who silently let their frequency collapse are the same men who show up in my office 10 years later with a diagnosis they never saw coming. And no, this is not what you've been told. For decades, men have been told that what happens in the bedroom is private, personal, and unrelated to their long-term health. That is wrong. It is one of the most medically relevant, biologically powerful, and preventively important aspects of male health we have. So here is what I want you to do. Tonight, be honest with yourself about where your frequency actually is. Not what you wish it was, not what it used to be, where it is today. Because that number is telling you something important about your prostate, your hormones, and your risk. And if you don't like what you see, there is time to change it. But the longer you wait, the harder it gets. If this was helpful, hit subscribe. I put out new videos every single day to help you take control of your health before it takes control of you. I'm Dr. Cross, and I'll see you in the next one.